I'd like to welcome you to WCPT AM's Out Chicago. Think of us as Sunday brunch with your gay best friends. Now please welcome your host, Scott Duff.
And a happy Sunday fun day to everybody out there. Scott Duff here along with Ellen Miller.
Good morning,
Good
Scott.
morning. I'm battling a cold.
I'm battling a sleepy kind of morning.
Oh, it's definitely
just begged to stay in bed as long as you possibly could.
1,000%.
We
Hopefully
could not
you
do
can
that.
lounge in bed and maybe have a little coffee or a little juice.
Yeah, do it for me.
Espresso.
That's
Just
what
hang out
I would
in your
be doing.
beds.
Just lay in the bed.
And there we are on
drink
this
hot coffee.
snowy, day. It's like, oh, gotta love Chicago in the springtime. Where
God,
it's 71 day and then snowfall the next.
T-shirt and shorts yesterday and the day before, and I had my winter coat. I left it in the car, but yeah.
I know, and now you are in. I called it Cookie Monster chic, but I think it might be Grover chic.
I got a
More, you got a fuzzy.
I decided I wanted something
You're
cozy.
embracing your hygge.
I'm embracing my
Hygge
hygge.
goes on all.
It's
Look,
still
I still have
going.
my Christmas tree up.
Okay. Of course you do.
I still have my Christmas tree up.
And what decor is it sporting these days?
It's sporting the same thing. We do a pretty much like a holiday neutral sort of tree. It's a big white tree with lots of balls on it.
No little Jesus figurines or Mother Marys or any of that.
No, we don't do that.
So
We don't do
any
that.
Santa Claus?
There are some Santas, but they're hidden in the
they're
back
hidden.
and everything.
I thought
Yeah.
maybe you did something like some people do where they turn it into a Valentine's
tree. No,
and a
no.
St. Patrick's Day tree.
No, we don't. No, we just leave it up because it's 12 feet tall and the light is really lovely.
No, doesn't it take up a lot of room in your place?
No, it's up against. I mean,
Oh,
it
it's
does
fun.
kind of like. But I mean, it's been up for 4 months.
It's something you just work around. You've learned to work around.
We know how to work around it. We have we turn it on every day.
Yes.
It's lovely.
Oh,
It's
that
a
makes
lovely
you feel
glow.
good. That's all that matters.
It does. We need some lovely glows, and usually we try to take it down around the same time as like daylight savings, but
That didn't
we
work
got
out.
lazy. And then it's like, oh, now it's gross out. Maybe we should just keep it up a little bit longer. We take it up to Easter.
If it brightens your day and your night, then
It does.
go for
It
it.
does. Yeah. Happy Straight Pride weekend to everybody.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll
St.
talk
Patrick's
about
Day. Look, and this has just been a weirdo week. I'm not even sure where to begin. Like, we kicked off the week with a lovely little car show on the front lawn of the White House, and then ended it with a call for personal retribution of the DOJ. It's just and MAGA is still so very, very obsessed with trans folks. Like, I mean, it is all they think about. And we want to know what you're thinking about. We've got some great guests today. Rabbi David Chapman, who is openly gay from Congregation Beth Shalom, will join us later this hour, which I am really, really excited about. I've been wanting to talk to faith leaders, especially queer faith leaders, about like how are you dealing with these crazy times? So I'm very excited that he's taking time out today,
Yeah, look
especially
forward
with it being
to meeting
Purim
him and
this
talking
past
to him.
week and
Yeah.
everything else. And because we could all use a distraction, the good folks at Porchlight Music Theater are teaming up with Broadway and Chicago for Titanic. The musical.
Yes.
It's when the music of Celine Dion makes sweet Canadian love with the 11-time Oscar-winning blockbuster film Titanic. Then you get Titanic.
It's a concept. I hear it's doing well in New York. So let's see
it
what
sounds
can do
like
here.
it's just hilarious and wonderful. And Claire Kennedy McLaughlin, who plays none other than Celine Dion herself, chats with us in the second hour. And like I said, we would love to hear from you. So give us a call at 773-763-9278. That number again is 773-763-9278. Of course, you can find us on Facebook, where we're coming at you live. Just head on over to Out Chicago Radio, and while you're there, give us a click and a like and a share. But if that doesn't float your boat, you can always tune in on WCPT AM 820, or ask your smart speaker to play WCPT on TuneIn.
It'll do it.
It'll
Trust
do
me.
it. It'll do it.
Yeah,
It'll do
it will.
it. Oh, I also forgot. We're giving away prizes.
We are.
We are. We got prizes today.
Fantastic.
The crazy African king of comedy will have you doubled over when Michael Blackson comes to the Genesee on March 27th. Blackson keeps audiences laughing with humorous insights on everything from relationships and life in his native homeland. Tickets are available through Ticketmaster at the Genesee Theater box office in Waukegan and GeneseeTheater.com. But luckily for all of us, WCPT has a pair of tickets for maybe could be you.
Could be.
Could be you. So let's just do this whole thing and do caller number 3 to 773-763-9278.
Wow, starting off the show with a
Let's just start with
giveaway.
prizes.
Aren't we
Let's
fun?
have prizes. There we are. 773-763-9278. Caller number 3. You will get tickets to go see Michael Blackson coming to the Genesee Theater on March 27th. And just a reminder, contests running on WCPT 820 are open to listeners 18 or older and residents of the greater Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana area. 1 entry per person, 1 winner per household, void where prohibited by law, and listeners may only win or qualify to once every 30 days. Complete rules are available on our website at WCPT820.com.
Very good. They're lighting up the phone line.
They are. They're already lighting up. Speaking of lighting up, how you doing there, Ellen Miller?
Yeah, other than being like, oh, yeah. It's just the,
What
the
was
weather.
that?
I just,
Did the weather really just kind of do it for you?
It did. That cold, damp, almost snow kind of way to wake up isn't the greatest. But I'm here. I'm happy to be here. I had a nice week. Our dog Maggie continues to do well.
You've been posting such really cute pictures of her just like waiting for you in a window and doing.
I went down the street to do a quick errand at my building, and I came back, and there she was, her paws on the couch in the front room, and just looking as so cute. And the lighting was great, so I snapped a couple pictures, and they turned out nicely.
Oh, yes, they look very sweet.
She's cute, but she's doing well, and
Good.
Kathy and I are staying close to home so we can spend as much time with her as we can. But she's doing well. We're grateful for that. And I went out and saw a couple of great shows this week. You still have time. Run, don't walk to see A Raisin in the Sun, the Lorraine Hansberry classic at Court Theater. I am embarrassed to say I'd not been in a Court Theater in years.
Really? Yeah.
And, it's that just, I stay close, stay close to the north side because there's so many theater things happening.
Right.
But lesson learned.
Go to Hyde Park.
Go to
man.
Hyde Park. It was quick to get there. We got there in like less than 30 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, on the drive. I mean, because it started at 7:30, so we could leave after rush hour.
Yeah.
And the theater is great. The vibe is great. We got a parking spot right out front because we got there a little early and got
that to me is unheard of because
we parked right in front of the theater on the street.
I'm not
for
talking
free.
about the parking. I'm just talking about trying to get to Hyde Park.
On a Wednesday if you leave the house around 6:15, we were
Fantastic.
there by easily before 7. The show is 7:30, so you still have a chance to get there. It has been extended to the 23rd. The acting is superb. It's 2.5 hours, and I never looked at my watch once.
Yeah,
and that says it all for me.
People have been losing their minds over this production, and
as they should.
Uh-huh.
I mean, when you think about when you have images or feelings about something you saw, whether it be a play or a concert or whatever it is, days after, and you feel that you were in it, like it got to you. That's this play.
Yeah.
And the quick story: my neighbor went with us. I said I was going, and he's a single guy, and he's like, I think I'll buy a ticket. Do you mind if I hitch a ride with you? I go, no, because we'll have a
come on, it'll be fun.
Yeah. And he's a musician and a great guy. And Zach, I used to play. We did during COVID. We did a couple of gigs together.
Oh, yeah.
And then he came with us, and he had his own ticket. We were sitting, and there was a young man next to me, and at the end, when everybody stood up for the standing ovation, which I want to talk about later about standing ovations, he was still sitting there, and he was like, I could see he was moved emotionally. Like, he was tearing up. And anyway, it turns out we had a lovely conversation with him afterwards. We have a lot.
This is the random guy.
The random guy.
Yeah.
And then when Zach and Kathy and I were in the lobby, like for quite a, because we were talking to this young man named Hank, he looks at Zach, he goes, were you at the Art Institute member lounge on Monday? Yeah.
What?
They were both together. I know the world is like this.
I'm telling you,
small.
There are 500 people in the world, and they all know each other. So be nice to everybody.
And,
be nice.
Don't talk about anybody when you're around
right?
other people. But anyway, so we just bonded. He is he was an attorney who left law to be a national park ranger.
Oh.
And there's a national park called in Pullman. I did not even know about it.
Uh-huh.
And he said a lot of Chicagoans don't, but it's a national park, Pullman area. Anyway, it's just, when you just engage with somebody or you reach out or you're at a cultural thing like a play like that brings out emotions, you never know. And if you don't ask somebody or engage in a conversation, you'll never know the commonality. You'll never know the experiences. And like I said, we gave him a ride home. We go, how are you getting home? He goes, well, I'll be taking the bus. I go, no, you won't. Come on, get in the car. So he lived right off Michigan Avenue.
Right on.
And we gave him a ride home. And so the whole night was just fantastic.
I love that.
So still chance to go. I don't know if Hank will be sitting next to you, but some nice person will be.
Come on, Hank.
A Raisin in the Sun. Court Theater. You've got till the 23rd of this month. Go see it, please. And if you haven't been to the Court Theater ever in a long time, you owe it to yourself to get down there and see it. Last night, I had the honor and privilege to see Elvis Costello.
I saw that. Wow.
Wow. And
at Park West,
Park
right?
West.
What a great venue.
Great venue. We had seen him a couple of times in the last few years, and it was a little less than the vocals weren't quite there. And when you're screaming rock and roll vocals and they're not there, it's rough. But he kind of reimagined his songs and did them in different arrangements with a piano player, Steve Naive, who he's been with for years, and then he brought on a violinist, a cornet player, both women, and a upright bass player who happens to play with a guy named Bob Dylan.
Oh,
and
I've heard of him.
And I can't. It was like a bagpipe, but it's you use your arm and one arm pumps up. It's like a band around your bicep on the one arm, and it pumps up this this sack, and he presses with the other. Just beautiful. I posted the video. Just beautiful music. He played, Scott, for 3 hours.
What?
No intermission.
What?
And people were riveted. And it was the fourth night. I wasn't going to go, and a friend of mine wrote me, she said, are you going? I go, I wasn't planning on it. She goes, it's magical. You got to go. And I'm so happy I did. It was the end of his run in Chicago and the end of a 3-year tour with Steve Naive. And I can't think of a better way to spend the St. Patrick's Day weekend than hearing that music from Elvis Costello and his fellow the bagpipe guy was like from Ireland, and it was just a beautiful night, and
Amazing.
It reminds me how lucky we are here in Chicago.
Always. Yeah, I would love to see him.
Yeah, he announced he's coming back in the fall with and doing his old stuff, like a whole different show.
Oh.
So you might have a chance.
All right, I might get a chance in the fall.
We'll talk.
Did you do Every Day I Write the Book? I love that. That's one of my...
No.
Well, I mean, it was 3 hours of music, so you probably have to kind of go through what I do.
And he did a more obscure, but he also did other songs that you may not have recognized at first because of the arrangement. But you hear those words, and you heard the words and the lyrics so much clearer, much better.
I love it when artists go back and revisit their work and be like, all right, let's change up the, how we're presenting it.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan does that all the time. Joni Mitchell did that with her classical stuff.
Yeah. And, one of the only ways that I can really dig Tom Waits music is there's an Canadian artist, Holly Cole, who in the 90s, she came out with this album called Temptation, which is all Tom Waits covers. Oh. And so what she did is it was just like piano and stand-up bass and drums, I think a small trio. And she did, and it's like, her interpretation, the way you're able to she reinvented the song so you can actually just hear them again and in a new fun way. I love it when they let's either strip it down or let's monkey with it and add different instrumentations.
Yeah, no, I love that too. I if you like a song originally, when it takes on other forms, it's also interesting, compelling, and it can be really exciting too. I want to circle back real quick with Raisin Sun. Those that don't know the story, just quickly, it's about an African American family. Lorraine Hansberry was from Chicago. I think she's from the South or West Side, living in the South Side or West Side in an extended family in a one-bedroom apartment that they made do. Grandma's daughter, son with his wife and child, and there's an element that comes to it where there's discrimination, of course, as you might imagine. A black family trying to get ahead in the 50s. And, like everything, Scott, what's going on today, it resonates.
Yeah.
It resonates. Yeah. It resonates.
There's a reason why it's a classic. And she's also a queer woman. as
Yes,
well.
she is.
Lorraine Hansberry.
Yes, she
Yeah,
is.
and she was, I believe, the first Black woman to have a show on Broadway that ran for,
Wow.
I think it ran for like 2 years or something
Yeah.
like that, if I know my theater history.
Yeah, that's your
Sometimes I do.
department, so I'm putting kind on you for that. But anyway, that's what it's about. It's an all African American cast. Every single person, from the young 10-year-old up to the one that plays the mother of the family, the matriarch. Just so well acted and beautiful. So I can't say enough about that.
There we
Just wanna
go.
circle
There we
back
go.
because
So
people
get
may
you
not
to
know what
Hyde
it's about.
Park.
Yeah. So how was your week?
My week was kind of, I'm battling this. I'm like,
Yeah, you sound a little.
I know. I've been
tiny
like
bit.
congested. I've been woozy. I've been laying low this week. Like I had to work and everything, but I've just been kind of laying low because it's been, I'm just kind of not feeling it. I think there's just something cootie going on around. I came home, like I literally, like I took a COVID test. I don't have COVID.
Thank
so
you.
Working with that, I did that and make sure because protect my colleagues.
Yeah, thank
here.
you for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I was able to do something. It's basically I've just been sitting a lot because I'm not 100%. I'm not 100%. But in fact, actually, I woke up on. I think it was Friday. It was like, hey, from a text from my nephew, who was like, hey, do you want to grab lunch, dinner, or breakfast or whatever? We haven't seen you guys in a while. I'm
That's
like,
nice.
oh, it's so sweet. So nice. And I was like, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do it. But I think he's actually on the phone
Is he begging
right
you?
now.
Is he calling to
I know
shame
he
you
is.
and
It's
live
good to
to come?
Hey, Jared, is that you?
Hi, Scott. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Well, I'm not really well. I'm in spiritually okay, but physically I'm a little ugh. How are you doing?
We are doing very well. Katie and I had a quick question for you.
Yes.
We wanted to know: do you prefer Great Uncle Scott or Great Aunt Scott?
I prefer Fabulous Uncle. Fabulous Uncle Scott. Fabulous.
Uncle. Okay.
Yes. Is there a reason?
We needed to know what they were going to call you.
Who's they?
They're kids.
Our new baby.
What? What? Stop it. Stop it.
Congratulations, Jared.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's why you wanted to get together, because you could tell us, but instead you're going to do it on the radio. I like your
Even
style.
better.
I
Even
like
better.
your style, young
Exciting.
Papa. Well, congratulations, you two. That's amazing. Yay.
Thank you so much.
Yay. Oh my gosh. I'm like going to cry. I
When
can't
do
do
you-
this
when
at
do
the
you do?
beginning of a
When-
show.
When do you two do?
Middle of September.
All right. Oh my gosh.
Right around the
Oh
corner.
my gosh. I'm so excited. I don't know what to do
Great
right
Uncle
now.
Scott, fabulous Uncle Scott
Fabulous
is in
Uncle Scott
tears.
is getting
Fabulous
teary.
Uncle Scott.
Yes. Congratulations. Oh my gosh. I can't even deal with this. All right. All right. I can't deal with this because I'm on the air.
Thank you, Jared, for sharing.
But, oh my gosh.
Of course.
Congratulations, you two and the Nishta. Oh my God.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Yay. Congratulations. Fabulous Uncle Scott is welling up right now. So I will call you later. But
right,
congratulations and thank you for sharing the news. Look, we've got breaking news here. We got breaking news here. There we are. Thank you. I love you so much. Congratulations.
We love you too.
All right. I will call you. I will call you after the show.
All right.
All
sounds
right.
good.
Oh my gosh, I can't even. What the heck?
Love
What
it.
the heck?
You never know what you're going to get on
That
this
is
show.
amazing. Yay. We should probably take a break so I can actually.
Hold on, callers. We'll
Hold
get
on,
to you.
callers. We will get to you.
See an old friend on the line, too.
I know. But before we go, this part about Chicago is brought to you by Team Hochberg. Attention, listeners, financial planners, CPAs, and divorce attorneys. If you are wondering why your mortgage professional has not returned your calls, well, it's probably because they are one of over 165,000 mortgage professionals who didn't renew their license over the past 24 months. So if you're purchasing a new home or refinancing your existing home, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. In the past 24 months, while other companies have been shutting down and loan officers are not renewing their licenses, Team Hochberg has been adding loan officers, is stronger than ever, and would love to earn your business. So let's review. In the past 24 months, mortgage companies have closed on over 165,000 1,000 loan officers exited the mortgage business, while Team Hochberg has expanded and is stronger than ever. If you'd like to work with experienced mortgage professionals, call Team Hochberg now at 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. The number again is 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061. I'm going to pull myself together. I'm so happy. They're having a baby.
That's so sweet.
Oh, wow. And then we'll take a break and we'll come back and there'll be more Out Chicago right here on WCPT Heartland Signal.
I'm Jen Grosshandler.
And I'm Chazzy Grosshandler.
We're with the Gender Cool Project, and you're listening to
Out Chicago!
Woot!
And welcome back to Out Chicago. Scott Duff here, a new fabulous uncle. I'm so excited to be.
Again, yes.
I'm already a fabulous uncle to 2. Now I'm going to be a fabulous uncle to 3.
Very fortunate.
Very exciting. Congratulations, Jared and Katie. And you're Ellen Miller in Grover Chic, Grover Couture.
Thank you, darling.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Sorry, I'm trying to get
I know,
myself
it's
together.
okay. Do you want to
Yeah, let's go to the phones. We got some phones. Hey, we haven't talked to our good buddy Michael O'Connor in a hot second. Michael O'Connor, welcome to Out Chicago.
Michael.
Yes, and hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I have had firstly, let me just say this. I missed you guys. I actually had a healthcare situation that I was taken care of, and I had to go to Northwestern, and so I want to first give a shout-out to Northwestern, the 9th floor, because I made them turn you guys on.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
And, the nursing station was booming. Okay. I wanted to say that. I also wanted to talk about, when you talked about Lorraine Hansberry's father integrated Park Manor on the South Side. They actually she was raised in Park Manor. She went to the University of Chicago, and then she did her thing in New York. And I am so grateful because the Raising in the Sun is a actual play that is relevant to a lot of people. I grew up. My parents moved to the Chatham area in 1962, and I remember my father and my uncle sitting in the front room because at that time the majority population was white, and they were attacking homes right here in the city. It hasn't been that long ago.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a very socially conservative Black Catholic family, and they believed in guns, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, property was protected. But that's what people had to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to keep up with making sure that people who didn't look like us recklessly abandoned the law, even though we lived down the street from one of the most notorious police precincts in Chicago, and that was the one that John Burge was in charge of, right there on 90th and Cottage Grove. With that being said, I wanted to move smoothly, if I could, into the West Pullman National Park. That history. That's the history of the Pullman Park, the Pullman Porters, the first AFL-CIO, mostly black trades group, because the Pullman area was where the Pullman trains was birthed at. And so they had Pullman Porters there. That was on the south. It's the south west side, sort of, not even the southwest side. It's out in the 34th legislative district. I remember that because I was legislative staffer for my boss, former Illinois General South Assembly member Connie Howard, and that was in our district. I'd like to, if possible, give a shout out to one of the members at the Progressive Radio, WCPT, where facts matter. I'd like to give a shout out to Lady B. It was her birthday.
It was her birthday. We got a
was
chance
just
to
here.
hug her neck this morning. It was very exciting.
Yes, and she's been a friend of mine for a while. I've been hearing you guys, and I have not been able to comment, but I'd like to quickly, if I can.
Sure.
We're in a situation where that we must know our history. We cannot assume that people know our history, and I'm talking about the LGBTQIA history.
Mm-hmm.
Which is inclusive of Lorraine Hansberry and Baynard Rustin and the James Baldwins and the Jane Addams right here in the city of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
There is a real push to do our trans community in.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm from the school of belief where if they come for them in the morning and I don't do anything,
Yep.
when they come for me at night, there will be no one there.
Yep.
So we need to pull together because this is a national attack. And I'll be quite frank with you. I've been hollering with Trump's first term that this guy had mirrored similarities to Adolf Hitler. And, that's why I'm at. We're talking about, and he's strictly from the playbook called Mein Kampf.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read that, it's not that long, but it's where they believe in one, not a diverse America. They have torn down every law that they could possibly do. We're at the point where Brown versus Topeka is no longer the bar level of public education here in this country. Public education started from black congressional groups right after Reconstruction, or what was called Reconstruction, where there was a national call for public education, and it was exercised in southern states where black congressional people were. That was the beginning of public education. This man is taking us back to a long, long way, and I can assure you that long, long way is one where, when I first came out, you couldn't dance in a bar together.
Yep. Yeah,
It is.
Jail. Yeah,
and
it
many
is.
of us did.
And right now, to me, also,
jail.
along with with the rather, scary specter of what is looming to come, it's also such a blatant distraction from the real damage that he's doing. Right now, they're going after.
Look, wait a minute.
They are obsessed with trans people right now in a way that is just so bananas. Fox News, if we can call it news, they do twice as many stories about trans folks than any other media outlet. So it's like they're just to vilify a community that is 0.1% of the population.
Because they saw that was their winning strategy when they ran over 30,000 anti-trans ads in swing states funded by Elon Musk, and they saw that's right. They saw that worked, and they just keep pounding it because they're working on the fear.
Well, but they're doing that to keep the base, to chum the water for the base. So they look over here like, let's go get those trans people. Yeah. Meanwhile, we're going to try to make Canada the 51st state. Like what? Like meanwhile, we're coming for your Social Security. We're going to dismantle the Department of Education. We're going to remove funding for national parks. The list goes on and on and on. But as long as we're getting the trans people, that's fine.
That's fine, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But wait a minute. When Marsha Johnson and them tore up the Stonewall Bar in New York, as I recall, we stood up then. And trust me, we're going to stand up now.
1,000%.
Amen to that, Michael O'Connor.
And we won't be alone. And if I have to get out here with my bullhorn and my walker I will be out on that front because we need to do what we need to do to stop this man.
We love you. We miss
And
you.
that's my comment for this morning.
Thank you for calling in, and don't be a stranger. Keep healing, and you sound fantastic,
Yeah,
Michael.
it's so great to hear your voice. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you,
And thank
my
you
friend.
again for all the work that you've done
Yes.
like over the decades and for reminding us that this is precious and we need to fight for it.
You're an important voice in the
Yeah,
community.
because if they come for me in the morning, they'll be
Yes.
coming for you at night.
Yes,
so
sir.
true. It's so
Yes,
sad.
sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Michael. And also to to kind of piggyback on what he was saying too about they're trying to erase us. It is. I mean, they're already doing that. He mentioned Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia. Oh gosh, why is it Rodriguez? I think my brain is
I think
like.
you're right,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, my brain is mush. The people like some of the trans leaders at the head of Stonewall, their names have been erased from national websites now.
The T is being erased.
The T is being
From
erased.
all
and,
governmental-
and it's so cuckoo bananas. I mean, there's a legislator in Texas, a state legislator, who introduced a bill that would make identifying as transgender a felony punishable by jail.
Yeah.
Just think about
He
that.
feels emboldened by his president.
Well, here's the thing. It won't go anywhere because
No, of
there's
course
no
not.
co-sponsors or anything like
No,
that.
no.
But this is just like indicative of the cruelty that is going on right now. And like recently, Iowa removed gender identity as a protective group from their state's civil rights laws. It's just they are going after folks.
It's a cruelty campaign in many different ways.
It is a cruelty campaign. And again, it is nothing but a distraction from what is really going on.
Yeah, they're working on the privatization of our government so they can.
In all aspects,
Make money
to
from
have
us.
that lady, the Department of Education lady, was like
The wrestling maven.
The wrestling maven, yeah, who was like, I was appointed Secretary of Education to dismantle the Department of Education. She said that out loud. Other books that we were talking about, that he was talking about, Mein Kampf. It's like, well, there are other playbooks that they're doing right now. Right now, it's Project 25. It's a playbook that's going on there. But if you also want to know a little bit more, why not read 1984, where they were burning books, banning books, and or Fahrenheit 451. How about that one, where they're lighting books on fire to release, like, we're not doing anything. How about Animal Farm, which is like, let's just talk about, there's a lot out there to see what's coming down the pike for us if we are not vigilant right now. If we are not vigilant.
That's a whole, and then and we can talk about the Democratic response or lack thereof, and that whole.
I know. And
what's going on there?
And you know what, Jim, you're on the line right now. I don't think we're going to be able to take your call just because we've got a couple of guests right now. But please call us back in the second hour, talking about the government shutdown. And what has been going on, because there was a really interesting piece in the New York Times this week that was about the Democratic response to Schumer's basically saying rolling over. I was also kind of surprised that Dick Durbin was a part of that as well. And it was about the younger members of the Democratic Party who are rightfully pissed. They're mad. They're mad at what's going on. And it was very, very interesting in terms of introducing the notion of, like, we need new and younger leadership within the Democratic Party. Like, all of these people who have done amazing work, incredible work. I'm a huge fan of Dick Durbin, huge fan of Chuck Schumer, huge fan of everything. But they have been in the Senate for so long right now, and they came up during a time when civility
was the key,
important,
and what they worked for it, and it was important.
Where decorum was important,
right.
And the Republican Party has scrapped all that.
Threw that out the window.
They threw that out the window, and they are really, really good about social media messaging to the lemmings. They're out there, a lie can go around the world faster, like in 2 seconds, and then trying to find the truth, it'll take forever to do that. That's what's happening here. And a lot of the younger Democrats who are coming up are like, look, we understand, like, the old guard, they
The white
still,
men over 70, which
but
comprise,
not even that. They're still, there's some. But it's not just on that either, because you've got Bernie Sanders who's out there stirring things up all over the place. But you have a lot of folks right now who are still steeped in that tradition of decorum, of civility, of reaching across the aisle, and of trying to do something not to offend people. We need to offend people right now. We need to get out there. There are younger organizations, groups who are kind of planning almost what looks to be kind of like a Tea Party kind of thing, but for the Democrats. And it's not a change in ideology. It is a change in tactics, which I think is really important. And people need to be listening to these younger folks who are coming up. And so we will definitely talk about that a little bit later on in the second hour, because there's stuff too that we didn't get to.
yes. Plenty we didn't get
Plenty
to.
of stuff we didn't get to, but unfortunately, I do have to take a break. But not unfortunately, I'm very excited because we are going to be speaking after this break. We're going to be chatting with Rabbi David Chapman from Congregation Beth Shalom in Northbrook. So stick around. You're listening to Out Chicago right here on WCPT Heartland Signal.
I'm David Dodd with the Chicago Black Gay Men's Caucus. Welcome back to Out Chicago on WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Out Chicago. Scott Duff here, along with Ellen Miller. And I'm losing.
Oh, poor baby.
Sorry, I've been sick this week. I know. I've been actually debated not coming in to do the show from home, but instead I wanted to spread my cooties.
Thank you
to all
so
of you.
much for that.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. During these extraordinary times, some folks are turning to faith practices to really help them get through and maybe make sense of what's going on, or at least find a way to move through this time with grace and compassion. And joining us now is Rabbi David Chapman from Congregation Beth Shalom in Northbrook. Rabbi Chapman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I hope
Glad
you
to be here.
I hope you had a lovely Purim.
Thank you very much. We had a really fun and festive Purim this past week.
Yeah, it's one of those holidays in the Jewish faith that's actually happy.
It is.
So
People always ask, is this a happy one or a sad
sad
one?
one, right? It's a happy. Come on, Esther. Hey, you have had a very interesting journey to Congregation Beth Shalom. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about how you got there?
Sure. Well, I'll give you the short version. I mean, I was born in Chicago, and I grew up in Wilmette. So geographically, it hasn't been so much of a journey.
Right.
But I came into the rabbinate really as a second career. I was a theater director professionally for a long time. That's what I studied in college, and that's what I pursued in New York and elsewhere for a while. And then as an adult, I really rediscovered Judaism. I got involved in an LGBTQ synagogue in New York called Congregation Beit Simchat Torah, and that really reawakened me to my love of being Jewish, and that turned into a desire to be a leader in the Jewish community. And eventually I fell into rabbinical school to become a rabbi, and since 2022, I've been back in the Chicago area serving as a rabbi here at Congregation Beth Shalom.
I love that you heeded the call. Do you remember the moment where you were like, oh, I need to pursue this. I need to go to rabbinical school. Can you tell us that?
There were a couple of moments. I mentioned at CBST. So they have a tradition on Rosh Hashanah where they invite a member to come speak to the congregation about being a member at CBST. And one year they asked me to give that, what they call the membership talk. And if any of your listeners know about CBST, they have huge high holiday services at the Javits Center in New York, 3,000-4,000 people. And so I got to speak in front of this large group of people about why being a member was important to me. And I'd never done anything like that before. And it was about why being Jewish is important to me, especially as someone who's part of the LGBTQ community. And, it was so moving and it was so powerful. And that was like a kind of initial wake-up call of, wow, I really have something to say about this. And then a couple of years later, I had two friends who happened to both be men, who asked me to officiate their wedding. And they didn't know I was thinking about becoming a rabbi. They just asked me as someone who they thought would do a good job.
Right, yeah.
And I had so much fun getting ready with them and preparing a service and just being with them in this powerful moment in their lives as they decided to become married. And that was another like indicator of, wow, what is all this saying to me, that I'm actually enjoying these experiences much more actually than I was enjoying being a professional theater director. So eventually I started to, listen to those voices and see what was next.
It's great.
And how do you, David, how did you learn to navigate being, both LGBTQ and a rabbi when there's, there have been some issues within Judaism, obviously, and controversies over how LGBTQ people are accepted and how they fit in. How have you managed to navigate that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's fair to say that we've come a long way since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. When I was younger, there really weren't role models, or there were very, very few role models, I guess I can say, that were openly gay or queer or lesbian or LGBTQ in general, and who were also leading kind of proud Jewish lives. There were people out there, but not many, and really not in leadership positions. And I have to be honest, by the time I decided to come really into Jewish leadership, the path had been paved by so many people that had come before me, that I certainly it wasn't always easy, and I faced some challenges and some obstacles, but I stand on the shoulders of giants, of people that really made a lot of sacrifices in Judaism broadly, and specifically in the conservative movement where I've chosen to serve, who've really done a lot of the work before me. So we still have work to do for sure, but I feel confident saying that my community and that our communities in general have really done the work and are really quite welcoming now.
That's good. That's good to hear. Do you interpret Jewish text in ways that affirm both LGBTQ and traditional Jewish values?
I think they're both the same.
That's a good question.
Don't you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, let me put it this way. I mean, I think that Judaism, one of its strengths is that there's a rich history and a rich tradition of debate and interpretation and sort of ideological pluralism about many, many issues. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. I mean, I look at Jewish texts and Jewish traditions through the lens of what we call kavod habriut, of human dignity, and that to me is a really paramount Jewish value. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a lot of, I guess I don't have a lot of space for interpretations of Judaism that I think are intolerant.
Yeah, right.
But the word that you said was traditional. So I have a lot of compassion for folks who grew up learning a kind of Judaism that makes it hard for them to accept someone like me. Mm-hmm. And I try with respect and with conversation and with study and with prayer and all the things we do in Jewish life to really help them understand where I'm coming from, and I try to understand where they're coming from. I think that's, I think sometimes that's how change happens.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah. And you and your husband's also plays a role in Beth Shalom, correct? Or
yeah, he also has been on a Jewish and professional journey in his life. So now when he and I met, we were both really working professionally in theater, and now we're both professional Jews. So he works in Jewish education and engagement, and he's written a couple of books on the subject. And he's right now he's doing a family synagogue program. Actually, not at Beth Shalom, at another synagogue in the area, but he does a lot of education and family engagement work at Beth Shalom too.
Yeah, well, and I think nice. That you two being an example, of
Mm-hmm.
And not only just like with your words, but with your deeds as well. So keep changing lives. So, but speaking of words, right? These are such crazy, extraordinary times right now that we're that we're living through, and my sister is an Episcopal priest. She has shared, she's like, I've had some really she's having a hard time navigating this space. What is the message these days that you are sharing with Congregation Beth Shalom? I mean, how are you navigating the political and the spiritual?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a very challenging time, certainly since October 7th, and even more so, I would say, in the last period. We've seen the instances of anti-Semitism that have been happening on campuses and in schools, and also I've heard from just a lot of adults who've shared that they don't feel as comfortable, being publicly Jewish in their workplace or in their neighborhood or on Facebook or whatever. And I think that's real for people. So, one of the messages that I share, and that I think specifically as a congregation we're trying to emphasize, is that, people are not alone. You don't have to do this alone. If there was ever a need for community, we have an expression of Rabbi Hillel in Pirkei Avot that says, "Al tifrosh min hatzibur," do not separate yourself from the community. If there was ever a time that we need community, we need to be around each other, we need to give our kids and our adults really positive experience of being Jewish, that it's an enrichment in your life, it's a blessing, it's not just a burden, it's a gift, and we really want to create spaces where people can experience that. The holiday you mentioned before, the holiday we just celebrated, Purim, it is a happy holiday, that's true, but it is, the story of Esther is a story of a Jewish community that was living in Shushan in Persia that was really doing well until they weren't. They were safe and protected, and then one day, the foolish king had an evil advisor, and everything turned on a dime, and all of a sudden the Jews were endangered and persecuted. And that's an experience that a lot of us can relate to, of feeling safe, and then one day you wake up and you don't feel safe anymore. And the reason it's a happy holiday, I suppose, is because by the end of the story, things have turned on a dime again, and suddenly the Jews are victorious and protected, and we celebrate the bravery of Esther in that moment, and Mordecai, and and God's presence as well. Although it's a little bit hidden in the Purim story, but it's a reminder that things can become good again, and that's something that we hope for and pray for. So I really try to give people hope, a sense of hope, a sense of strength, a sense of community, a sense of positive identification, and a sense that, the richness of our tradition can be a source of strength and support, especially in these times.
Yeah, I'm still stuck on the king and foolish advisor.
It's a timely
I wonder
message.
who that could be, too.
Timely message, for sure.
There we go. We don't have too much time left, but it seems to me that the demographics of your congregation have to be interesting, just in terms of, various, again, I think this is the tightrope that a lot of faith leaders need to walk, again, trying not to put the political into the spiritual. Do you feel that especially since October 7th, but then also within the last couple of months, do you feel the congregation actually heeding the call to come together as community, to stand in solidarity and to support one another?
Well, yeah, I've felt, and I know a lot of my colleagues have felt similarly. We've actually seen an uptick in involvement and participation and even membership, since October 7th. I would never wish for a catastrophe in order to, facilitate people appreciating their heritage.
Yeah.
Right. But the reality is that people have realized how important it is to be in community. And so we've seen people show up. We've seen people come, and we've seen people engage, maybe for the first time in their life.
And have these people been, not to interrupt, have they been LGBTQ people that have become more involved in your synagogue because of your presence there?
Well, that's that's maybe a sort of separate phenomenon, but I can't. I would never suggest that an LGBTQ couple would join the synagogue just because they had a gay rabbi. But I think that anecdotally, I think that hasn't hurt. I think that people may have had a perception of conservative Judaism or just Jewish life in general that hasn't been welcoming. Mm-hmm. And now, thank God, like I said, it's not just me, but just in Chicago alone, there are other, out rabbis leading congregations. And if you look around the Midwest, there are other examples as well. I'm not even the first, gay rabbi to serve at Beth Shalom. My predecessor here, Rabbi Warner Ferretier, also was. So, there's a lot of learning happening, a lot of growth happening, and I'm really thrilled. Honestly, I'm thrilled not to be a pioneer, not to be a boundary breaker. It's such a blessing to be like in the second or even third generation of folks that are are gay or queer and are doing this work at a congregational level. It makes me feel like we've really come a long way.
Well, Rabbi David Chapman from Congregation Beth Shalom, thank you so much for taking time out to join us today, and thank you for creating community and hope. So enjoy the rest of your day.
Nice meeting you.
And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise.
We've got to take a quick break, and when we come back, there's more Out Chicago right after this.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Our pleasure.
I'd like to welcome you to WCPT AM's Out Chicago. Think of us as Sunday brunch with your gay best friends. Now please welcome your host, Scott Duff.
And welcome back to the second hour of Out Chicago. Scott Duff here, along with Ella Miller on this. It is.
Snowing.
I went to go fill up my water bottle, and I was able to look out a window, and I'm like, oh, sad.
Yeah, well, we got a tease over the weekend, and now we're getting reality.
This is just total Chicago. Of course, it's just Chicago reminding you that we've got about 4 more fake springs.
Yes, we
before
do.
real spring
At
gets
least,
here.
Yes.
But we're so glad that you are inside and warm and listening to us today on the air. And by the way, Monday on Choose Views, Richard will be talking with Illinois State Representative Tracy Katz-Mule, who is also planning to join us at our May 3rd anniversary broadcast in Northbrook. What? Can't believe that. And political strategist Mike Nellis. Choose Views weekdays from 6 to 8 a.m. Central on WCPT 820 a.m., the Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and the Face Place.
Yes.
All of those places.
Yes.
All of those places. Look, we need some distraction.
And yes, we need lots of distraction.
We need some inspiration.
Yes, we do.
We need some liberté. Some Titanic. I cannot do French, and especially I cannot do French Canadian. I can't do French Canadian. But let me tell you, somebody who can't do French Canadian. Look, when the music of Celine Dion makes sweet, sweet Canadian love with the 11-time Oscar-winning blockbuster film Titanic, you get Titanic. And it comes steaming into Broadway in Chicago's Broadway Playhouse at Water Tower Place starting March 25th in a co-production with Porchlight Music Theater. And joining us now is none other than Celine Dion herself. Okay, wait. It's actually the actor who is playing Celine Dion herself, Claire Kennedy McLaughlin. Claire, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Merci.
Welcome.
My heart will go on. I love Celine so very much. Congratulations on the show.
Thank you.
Can you tell us, okay, for a lot of people, they might not know, like, Titanic.
Yeah.
What the what?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the show and the role that you're, because, like, Celine Dion ain't in the movie.
Yeah, for sure. So Titanic is basically the story of the film Titanic, but as told through the lens of Celine Dion, because according to Celine Dion, she was actually there.
Of course.
It's her own, well, obviously, it is her own recounting of the events of the Titanic, and it's told in about 100 minutes, and the entire score is Celine Dion music.
I mean, sign me up. right now. I'm like, come on, this. I mean, what a fun idea for a show. What girl being cast as Celine Dion. Congratulations. How are you
Thank you
feeling?
so much.
That's a lot.
I've kind of been like so excited since I found out in November that if I think about it too hard, I might like throw up. Like that's kind of how I kind of felt about it.
Same, yeah.
When I was in the work carpool when I got the email, and I immediately burst into tears, and all my coworkers looked at me and they were like, "Oh my God, did somebody die?" And I'm like, "No, I got Celine Dion." And honestly, the excitement has only grown since then. I was like, maybe I'll get over it. Maybe I will, accept it as my reality. And every day I've gone to rehearsal, and it gets sweeter each and every day.
So Titanic, it's dealing with a historical tragedy, okay? And now you're, and you have to like balance it with like popular music. How do you balance the comedy with like the emotional weight of the material? Is that at all a challenge, or is it seamless for you?
It certainly can be a challenge. I think it's important to remember that, as we all know, Celine Dion is the queen of power ballads. And for that reason, her music really lends itself to such a tragic, true story. And then, of course, the really heartbreaking romantic story that is the Titanic film. What is so brilliant that the writers have done, Ty, Marla, and Connie, is that they have beautifully married both the tragedy of it, but also keeping it so fast-paced with the comedy. It's a show by and for the gays and for anybody that's ever loved the film Titanic and Celine Dion. And if you haven't loved either of them, have you been living under a rock?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So when you got the email and you burst into tears, and has just Celine been playing? Like, have you just been watching her like a hawk, like old videos or like YouTube clips or interviews? Like, have you been, as you've been approaching this work in the rehearsal room, how have you created your character of Celine Dion?
Oh, 100%. I have been like cyber stalking her and everything that has ever come out. I'm surprised like Homeland Security hasn't contacted me yet. Yeah, what's so interesting is that her performance style I find to be really unique and perfect for a musical theater production because she's so theatrical. She's such an energetic performer. She's very physical. She's also very emotional. She wears her heart on her sleeve in performance, but also she wears her heart on her sleeve in her interviews, which has made her such an interesting, celebrity and performer for fans to watch because she is so unique and, as she says, kooky, crazy, and quirky, and 100% uniquely herself. So it's so fun to embody somebody like that, or, attempt to embody somebody like that. And, it's definitely not, while the musical itself is a parody of the movie, it's definitely not supposed to be a parody of Celine herself. It's definitely like a fan celebration of her and everything that she has done and brought to, millions of people over, however many decades. It's definitely a celebration of her heart, and just the individual that she is.
Yeah, well, her heart will go on,
It will, and it has.
And it has. Now, is there, you are a fellow NU Wildcat. Go Cats.
Yes, go Cats.
So, I'm kind of going back to like thinking of, preparing when you're working on creating a role, and again, something that is like a complete celebration. But at the same time, it is a parody, so it's a little bit larger than life. Has there been a moment, like a gesture or a body posture, or even going back to like acting class, like an animal that like really helped? That really helped you kind of like, oh, I got this. Like, is it like the pounding of the chest that Celine is so known for? Or is it something, or like you were saying, her quirky French Canadian? Like, is there something that you found that's like the key that you key in?
Oh, 100%. After watching hours and hours of concert footage, she loves a wide stance. So definitely a wide, strong stance. She also always performs in stilettos, which, as somebody who wears stilettos is insane and remarkable. So she's kind of got that, ever in a heel, strong power pose, shoulders back, as our choreographer Casey says, a very pelvis forward woman, almost a little bit masculine in that way. And definitely the pounding the chest, the big, sharp arm movements, like those definitely help me drop in, if you will, into Celine.
Into Celine. What has been your biggest challenge so far? I mean, I can only imagine, like, vocally, it's got to be challenging. Like, that's got to be a workout. Like, what have you been discovering in the rehearsal process?
I think, going into it, I was like, okay, I studied French for very many years, middle school, high school, whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, but it's not the French accent that I know because it's Québécois. It's French Canadian. It's totally different. So definitely I was worried about the accent work. Also because she's lived in the U.S. for so long, she's a woman of the world. Like her accent is super specific. So it's not even just Québécois dialect. So I thought that was going to be the hardest part. But there have been so many phenomenal actresses that have played Celine before me that have nailed it. And there's a whole archive of footage to base that on, as well as, of course, the many, many interviews of herself. But honestly, the biggest challenge, I think, is definitely the script is so amazing. It's so funny. The show is so fast-paced, but it's remembering to preserve the heart of it all.
Yeah.
It can be easy just to read the script as a comedy full of gags and slapstick type material. But remembering that, like, the Titanic, it's iconic not because it was a slapstick movie. It certainly wasn't. It's iconic because it has a lot of heart and it means something different to everybody that's seen it. So, yeah, preserving the authenticity and of the narrative, I think, has been a real balancing act.
I love that.
Claire, were there any particular moments or scenes in the show that you found extra rewarding to perform?
My heart will go on. I know that's probably the easy answer, but during our first run through, and, we had worked the scene before it, the scene after it, that whole thing. During our first run through, actually a couple of days ago, I was doing the couple of lines into the start of the song, and I immediately, and this had never happened before, I started getting really choked up. Like I really was Celine Dion and like I really was on the Titanic.
Wow.
The Titanic, excuse me. But it really is emotional, and it is a legitimate tragedy, and it's nice that the show is built in a way that it works really quickly, and the comedy is so well paced. But by the time you get to My Heart Will Go On at the very end, it's like a release for both the actors and the audience, and everybody can let out their breath and is ready to feel something completely different. And so to do that, to get it right, it felt amazing, and I think that's going to be a pretty hard part of the show for me to top in terms of favorite parts of the show.
Makes sense.
Sure.
Makes sense. Thank you
Makes
for answering
total
that.
sense.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. You're definitely in great hands with Porchlight Music Theater. They are such a fabulous
They know how to do a
company.
musical.
They do incredible work, and they have partnered up with Broadway in Chicago for Titanic. One of the things that I am particularly excited about, which is a rarity with Broadway in Chicago, is that it is an all Chicago cast. But we're huge fans of the Chicago art scenes. I'm a huge fan of the Chicago theater community. What is it about the Chicago theater community that makes it so special in your eyes?
First of all, totally agree. Love that it's an all Chicago cast.
Right.
I think a lot of times local theaters, kind of have the itch to cast somebody from out of town, or we need a name, or we need somebody with a credit. But with this show, I think audiences will see, and hopefully other performing houses will see as well, that we've got all the talent that we need right here.
Oh, 100%.
And additionally, Chicago audiences love to see people that they can follow their careers through around the city.
Yep.
But Chicago, of course, it's the second city, right? It's the birthplace of improv. And Titanic so lends itself to improv. I mean, my castmate, Rob Lindley, plays Ruth Rose's mother. He has this big monologue in the middle of the show, most of which he wrote himself. But every time he does it, the entire team is on the edge of their seats, waiting to see what he'll do. And by the end of it, 7 minutes later, we're all on the floor, like, laughing into tears.
Oh, yeah.
And see, it's a city that loves improv, loves comedy, and who doesn't love a fierce Celine Dion belt? I mean,
right?
that's cross-cultural. That's
Right,
not
it
just a
is.
Chicago thing. You know?
It is cross-cultural.
So,
it is universal.
Yeah, I think, and we also bring a special brand of, there's a couple of rewrites that make it local, and I think Chicagoans will really, really enjoy to see this completely new vision, by the way, of the show itself. New design, both in costumes and in set. It's Titanic like it hasn't been seen before in its other productions.
Oh, I love
New York
Zutalo.
is where was it currently there, or I knew it played there previously?
I believe it currently has productions off Broadway in the West End and in Australia. They're opening one in Paris in the next couple of months, I believe. And they had a production in Canada, I believe,
Makes
last
sense.
year for several months. Yeah.
Well, it's a very exciting. We can get a little sneak peek. There's an event at Sidetrack tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes, there sure is. I will be there, as well as my castmates, Adam Thane and Maya Rowe, who play Jack and Rose, respectively. We'll also be there with our director, Ty Blue, who is also one of the original writers of the show, as well as the Porchlight creative team. And we'll be singing some songs and answering some questions and hanging out. So if you're free tomorrow, come spend St. Patrick's Day with us in the cast of Titanic.
What time does that kick off tomorrow at Sidetrack?
I believe the event kicks off at 6:30, but we do have two performances. So one will be around the 6:30 mark, and then later on we will be singing the songs again at about 10 p.m.
Oh, so you actually are going to be sticking around for all the Musical Monday madness that happens.
Well, we'll be coming back. We're gonna have a little dinner break,
Gotcha,
and then we'll be around. But we've got
get energized.
We've got day one of tech rehearsal the next day. So
Wowza! Oh man, oh man!
Keep up your strength.
Not trying to go too hard.
Look, this is so exciting, just because again, it is an all Chicago cast of featuring the music of arguably one of the best vocalists of our times. I also think that any Celine Dion song would make a good Meatloaf song, and any Meatloaf song would make a great Celine Dion song. They are interchangeable in terms of style, overblow, but it's so great.
Never thought about it that
the
way,
Chicago
Scott.
cast is like, I know Rob Lindley and I know Adam Thane. Those two are the most wrong human beings on the planet.
Yes,
so
they
you know
are.
you're
Yes,
in
they
for
are.
like hilarity and a great time, and most certainly a mistake, and also bad news. The ship goes down. But
Don't wreck it for us, Scott.
it's already been wrecked by an iceberg. Listen, don't miss Titanic. Presented by Broadway in Chicago and Porchlight Music Theater, running March 25th through May 18th at the Broadway Playhouse at Water Tower Place. For tickets, go to BroadwayInChicago.com. And if you want a little sneak peek, head over to Sidetrack tomorrow around 6 o'clock and get a good seat for a little sneaky peek. Claire, Kennedy, McLaughlin, thank you so much for joining us. Break all the legs and just go and have the time of your life.
We know you will.
Thank you so much for having me, y'all. Come on out. We can't wait to see you.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
See you then. Thank you.
There you are. There you are, Claire. Break all the legs and drink a lot of water. Hydrate. And wear those heels.
Claire.
All right.
Thank you very much.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, there's more Out Chicago right after this, so stick around.
Welcome back. I'm Paul Oakley Stovall. You're listening to Out Chicago on WCPT.
Welcome back to Out Chicago. Scott Duff here, along with Ellen Miller.
Seems like so long ago that Paul Oakley Stovall was on the show.
I know. He is.
We're having
some
it
jazz.
seems like so long ago we heard that
I
open.
love that. The smooth jazz.
We hear it again.
That funky. Yeah, Paul is in, where is he these days? I think he's in New York. He's all over the place.
Everywhere.
Being very, very busy.
Remember we had Leah Waite on when we had her years ago? Lena Waite?
Yeah, Lena Waite.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I see her at the Oscars now.
I know.
And
Because, this was that. I'm taking full credit for that. That was me reaching out to Lena on Twitter.
you did. You got her on, and I'll never forget. It was early on our show.
It was early on in her career too.
Yeah.
She came on as a producer for Dear White People.
Dear White People.
Which is
Yes.
something that you folks, if you haven't seen the movie, definitely check out the movie. They also made it into a Netflix series, which I did not watch. The movie, 100%. And then Lena Waithe, she won an Emmy for writing for, Master of None. Is that what it was? Yeah, the Aziz Ansari show. Yeah. Fabulous episode about Thanksgiving and coming out to your family. It was so good. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun and fancy people.
Yeah, we have.
Speaking of fun and fancy people, on Monday on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be joined by DePaul journalist in residence Chris Bury, former chairman of the Illinois Republican Party Pat Brady, and Illinois Congressman Bill Foster. Live, Local, and Progressive in the weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m. Central on WCPT.
Those are some good guests.
Chicago's Progressive Talk for 20 years. 20
years?
20 years. There we are.
Wow.
We've been on for 11. We're in 12. 11 and some change.
Yeah. Pretty soon we're going to be on a majority of the years.
Yeah. Yeah. Take that.
Take that.
We should probably talk to Jim. Jim's been hanging on the phone for a while. So Jim in Chicago, welcome. You're on Out Chicago.
Good afternoon. This internal game of pin the tail on the donkey by the talk shows on Sunday morning, if they ever declare a winner, I hope somebody makes me aware of it. But this week it was Chuck Schumer, not the Afrikaner, not the deranged thief, not Chuck Schumer was the villain this week.
Yep.
And what Sheldon, what I was trying to explain to him, we are living in insanity. You cannot allow the Afrikaner and the other lunatic to go willy-nilly. If they close some of these departments down, they'll never even open them up. In fact, in theory, they wouldn't even have a midterm. So we'd be stuck with the Afrikaner and the insane person until he croaks.
Yeah.
Until he croaks.
Yep.
Well, that's what he explained today. But they won't take that as an explanation. They want to say that it's Chuck Schumer's fault. It's all Chuck Schumer's fault, which is absurd. It's absurd.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much, Jim, for calling, and I really appreciate it. You're right. He's kind of is being, I guess, the scapegoat that's going on right now. We talked a little bit about in the first hour. I think the main reason is because he voted to continue the budget,
keep the government open,
and I believe from what my understanding is that he thought more damage could be done in the time of a government shutdown behind closed doors than continuing forward and having it be in the light of day.
Look, it's a tough line to walk. Let's face it.
I know. It's something that, again, Democrats are in the minority in the houses, like in all forms of government right now. And I think he was doing it, and the other senators who had to go because they needed a 60 majority to go and do that. They just thought this was the best way forward to protect
the people that are working in the government too. I mean, that was really the ones that are still left, and there are plenty. They didn't want to throw any more hurt on them. Is what my understanding.
Yeah. And, and it's just, of course, like he's going to get beat up, but the thing that's also kind of weird too is like, of course, Ding Dong is to blame, and Elon Musk is to blame. The fact that we are giving this man so much power, we did not elect him.
No.
We did not elect.
And the majority of the
this
American
guy.
people are not thrilled about this fact. What's going on?
No, they're not.
Polls
What's
show.
going on?
Yeah.
They're going down right now, and it's. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I think they're relying a lot on the judicial, on the courts, which have come out, they have been challenging these executive orders. The question is he going to care and listen?
Yeah, what's going to happen when they try to put these things into effect?
But are they waiting for that to happen so that they can enact to another level? I mean, that's all I can think about.
But what's the other? But here's the thing: what's the other level when you don't have a majority? That's the thing. Are you going to try to get these people, these GOP folks who are falling in line, just falling in step?
Well, and then you hear in private they don't like it, but of course when it comes
that's
to
in
their
private,
vote, right?
But because they don't have any cojones to get up and to stand up for what's going on. That's the part that's really, really.
At what point will they feel democracy is truly at stake? Because we know it is, but at what point will the GOP, who claim that they are patriots and they are for democracy, are going to stand up and say, okay, this is all right, you've gone too far. You're now not paying attention to what the judges and the courts are saying. I mean, that's my only. I don't know what else it's going to take.
I think it might be let's take a playbook out of look to some of the younger folks that are stepping up. You've got AOC, you have Jasmine Crockett, you've got David Hogg, who is now the chairman of the DNC. I think we need to look at different strategies as to what's going on, and especially when it comes to getting information out and using social media, which is going to be very tricky again, because all of the social media people are in control. They're already on Team Trump. They are MAGA, and so it all comes down to will that message be getting out? It's an awful weird time right now.
And the Democrats continue to, self-examine and put a magnifying glass on how all the mistakes that we've made. You notice that Republicans never go there, even when we need to go there. We need to take a page from their book. I've said this over and over again. And uniting and not,
of solidarity.
I mean, I hear I'm mad at the party because of, Kamala was not. She wasn't in primary. Whatever why do they always have to look at the couple of negative things or a couple of things they deem as not being perfect and throwing the baby out with the bathwater? We need to unite behind AOC, behind Jasmine Crockett, behind anybody that's got a new, fresh idea on how we need to just be bolder and take back our country.
I know. Well, but again, this is the tricky part, because with the Republicans, you pretty much have a homogenous base.
Completely, yeah.
You pretty much have a homogenous base. Yeah. I know he gained more votes with Black and Latino voters this last go round, but pretty much it is white folks that is a conservative and who are throw the word Christianity, the name Christianity, around like it's some sort of excuse. Yeah. But all they're doing is just hatred and cruelty. Oh yeah. That whole thing. And then on the other side with the Democrats, we have so many different people with so many different agendas that it's hard to streamline. And I think so, if progressive folks, it was so funny. We're having this talk. Last night was when I went over to the neighbors, of course, for game night because we're old and that's what we do now. But we had this conversation about, I'm so thrilled that there are people out there that are doing the good work to help different marginalized communities. Right now, I don't need to be worried about sex workers. That is a message that is coming across from a lot of progressive things. We got to sex work is work, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, great. Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Can we table that for right now and try to get people to realize that if we don't act now, we won't be able to vote. You think the elections, the 2020 election and the 2024 election were under suspicion? Imagine what the 26 election is going to be like when we have new technology from SpaceX or to do like these new voting booths, to think about what's going on there. I think like I get it. I applaud people who are out there fighting the good fight and doing things, but like there are some things that we need to table right now.
We need to focus.
And we need to focus. And we do need to get together and just solidarity.
Yes.
We need to come, because that's the one thing that the GOP has down pat. They took a playbook, from Reagan about you never vote against the party.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on. And now with the Democrats, that's something that we need to be focusing on as well. But right now it's like, are we going to be able to do it? And that's the part that's really that is upsetting to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, again, I appreciate everybody who's out there fighting for those causes and the causes that are really, really important to people. I understand that. But we need to go macro in terms of as a party. I'm talking as a party, as a person, go micro. Go in and find the small things that you can do
personally.
That you can do personally. But as a party, we need to look at the big picture. We need to tell folks about all right, so let's talk about fascism. They want to keep people poor, they want to keep people sick, and they want to keep people uneducated. What are we doing right now? They're going after Social Security. They're going after the Department of Education. And then we've got Secretary Brainworm, who's got there are more measles outbreaks in Texas than there are trans athletes in sports. All right.
Priorities are so
let's think about that, what's going on. And you have him talking about let's have measles parties. So but if we don't fix this, if we don't fix and stop things, that's what they're doing. They're trying to tank the economy. They're trying to keep you poor, make other people rich. They're trying to keep you uneducated, not just book learning. I'm not talking about that, or general smarts, but just about what's even happening right now.
History and the current
and they want to
situation.
keep you sick. They want to keep you unwell, because if you are unwell and you are poor and you are uneducated, you are not a threat. Going back to the beginning when we were talking about public schools came around and people were very, very concerned about that. Conservative folks, because that means oh no, we're going to have an educated proletariat. And that is the part that is really, that's scary to people in power with fascist tendencies. And that is what's happening.
And that's what we're dealing with.
That's what we're dealing with. And then, but in order to kind of, distract from that, again, it goes back to, let's obsess about trans people. Let's just resort to cruel, stupid playground bullying techniques, to go after people that really, it does not affect your life.
No.
At all. At all.
That's typical fear mongering.
It is total fear mongering, but beyond that, it's just now becoming cruel. We saw with the Southern strategy when they were going after white Southerners. They were saying, yes, you're poor, yes, you're poor, yes, you're uneducated, but at least you're not black. That was the whole thing. And now it's okay, you're poor, you're disenfranchised, but you know what? You're better than those trans people who are coming to have bathroom time or what, it doesn't make any sense. And that is what they're focusing on. And even people, the elected officials, don't talk to me about decorum, when you've got the howler monkeys of Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert that passed,
Such
whatever.
a double standard.
That whole thing. But even earlier this week, during a House Foreign Relations Subcommittee meeting, Chairman Keith Self, a Republican from Texas, and Texas seems to be trying to lead the whole way. I'm because I know Iowa was trying to beat Texas in terms of passing more anti-LGBTQ legislation, specifically trans. Chairman Keith Self deliberately misgendered Representative Sarah McBride, who is the first transgender congresswoman, referring to her as the gender gentleman from Delaware. And in response, thank God, McBride shot back, addressing self as Madam Chair.
Yep.
Hilarious, didn't miss a beat.
No.
And then, because he got so like, what are you doing? You're misgendered. Like, they got this whole little thing that dude man just left. He stopped the meeting and went away. Stopped the hearing. Like he adjourned the hearing. Run away. A profile in courage.
Yeah.
Right there. When they're calling out stupid stuff, stupid name calling. And Sarah McBride had a response later, which I was like, mwah, chef's kiss. Here's what she said.
We will not take a lecture on decorum from a party that incited an insurrection. I appear to live rent-free in the minds of some of my Republican colleagues. I wish that they would spend even a fraction of the time that they spend thinking about me, thinking about how to lower the costs for American families. I wish they would spend a fraction of the time that they spend thinking about me, figuring out how to make government actually work better, rather than making it work worse in order to prove that government can't work. They are obsessed with culture war issues. The Republican Party is obsessed with culture war issues. It is weird and it is bizarre. And the American people deserve serious legislators, serious elected officials who are focused on bringing people together to deliver real results for the American people, not to play games and not to engage in schoolyard taunts.
I mean,
amen to her, man. That
right?
is just, yeah.
That was
Putting it out there. That's the truth.
That was Representative Sarah McBride from Delaware responding to what's going on. But that is what's happening. They're using all of this as a distraction. It is nothing. They don't care.
No, they don't care.
They don't care.
They know it's like raw meat for their people, for their red meat, for their.
Well, meanwhile,
for
we
their
can
people.
go diddle around over here and like dismantle this agency, get rid of this department. Let's get rid of USAID and like what's going to happen globally?
And just build a company, build a company that we can profit from.
Yeah, and it makes zero sense. It makes zero sense and is completely un-American.
And it's starting to make zero sense to more and more of the American people. And that is what's going to turn the tide.
But then now we've got this whole thing about Ding Dong declaring protests illegal. There are illegal protests. Things are people protesting a Tesla dealership is domestic terrorism. You have the Minnesota state legislature just introduced a bill to try to make Trump derangement syndrome a mental illness.
Oh my God! Get out!
Like that is what's going on. Like people
That person has mental illness is trying to do that.
But so here's the thing. This is the part that I agree with you. I do think a majority of the people are not happy with what is going on.
They're not.
They are not happy. They're not pleased. But even if we come up to protest or to call our elected officials or to do whatever it is that we do to have these conversations with other people, it's going to fall on deaf ears because you have a power-hungry autocrat who has zero F's to give.
Yeah.
None.
And free speech is not at the top of his list.
And yet at the same time, it is at the top of his list. That's what they're all screaming about: freedom of speech, freedom of expression. This week, JD Vance got booed at the Kennedy Center,
right?
And which I think was great, but at the same time. So he gets booed.
Right.
And then you have the interim president, Richard Grinnell, who is a gay man, totally clutched his pearls and fired off an email that said, I received several messages from Kennedy Center staffers sharing their embarrassment over more than a few symphony patrons loudly booing the vice president and his wife last night. As the premier arts organization in the United States of America, we must work to make the Kennedy Center a place where everyone is welcomed. We clearly have work to do, and I hear your outrage. He continued, intolerance towards people who are politically different is just as unacceptable as intolerance in other areas. Everyone is welcome at the Kennedy Center. What All right, so a couple of things here. I thought diversity, equity, and inclusion programs were no longer welcomed in U.S.
that's what we've been
institutions.
told lately.
That seems that but we can't have that because that is diversity, equity, and inclusion, or at least diversity and inclusion that's going on. And isn't this also the same Kennedy Center who aggressively went after LGBTQ programming?
Yep.
World Pride concert featuring the National Symphony Orchestra, canceled. DC Gay Men's Chorus, canceled. Annual Pride Month celebration, canceled. Grinnell later posted on X, right after that incident happened, it troubles me to see that so many in the audience appear to be white and intolerant of diverse political views, reinforcing the good old adage, even if you are part of a marginalized group, you can still be a racist butthead. And that is what's going on. Listen, we should have passed. We need to take a break.
Yes, we'll take a break.
And when we come back, it is the final thrilling show-stopping moment about Chicago right here on WCPT.
Hi, this is Renee Taylor. You're listening to Out Chicago, WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Out Chicago, where this gay is under the weather, but on fire.
You're doing fine.
Right now. Oh, I know. I'm doing fine and dandy. Hey, you know what? Did you know? 20 years, WCPT, celebrating 20 years. Amazing. And tickets are now on sale for our May 3rd 20th anniversary broadcast at Max and Benny's Restaurant, Deli and Bakery in Northbrook. Hal Sparks, Jonas Pizzito, Richard Chu, Patty Vasquez. I'm going to be there. I know we still have to wait to see Ellen's.
Yes,
there are things happening.
Yeah, I may or may not be there, depending on my situation.
Yes, but we know that we'll be there in spirit. We're going to be there. We're broadcasting live from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. with special guests. Learn more and get your tickets by visiting heartlandsignal.com/anniversary. Tickets are $20 each. Hurry, they're going quickly. We would love to see you there. Oh my gosh, this just made me think of something. So last week, thank you. Oh gosh, I'm going to forget his name. I was working at the snack factory. And one of our listeners, a WCPT listener, came through and he's like, "You had a really good show today." I'm like, "What?" And he was just like, kind of like, I think it was James was his name.
James. Okay,
yeah, but
thank you,
I
James.
forget. But he was just so excited. He's like, "Thank you. I've been listening to you for years. I got to let more people know about WCPT." I told him about the 20th anniversary event, but it was really lovely because, like, when you're sitting here on a snowy day,
we don't know who's listening.
We're just talking to Devin over there,
I know, but I've been hearing. You know what? It's really gratifying. I have been meeting more listeners lately. I think the times that we are in now, people are reaching out to our station and to us and all the other great hosts for support, for moral support, for hope. Because we are fighting the good fight and we need to keep people's morale up and keep them fired up and know that all is not lost.
And the thing that keeps going back into my head is like, look, we haven't come this far to only come this far.
That's right.
And it's like, these things are important. And I know it will test your mettle and hopefully that mettle will be on fire.
We got to keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on.
Keep each other, going.
And a little more housekeeping kind of stuff too. Just a reminder that Out Chicago, that's us,
has a podcast.
We've got two actually.
Yeah,
two of them.
A couple of podcasts.
We've got the full show, full episode, and then featured interviews. All you can do, just search for Out Chicago wherever you get your podcasts. Or go to the podcast link on our show page by visiting heartlandsignal.com/out-Chicago. And on that page, you're going to find out our recent interviews with Seth Rudetsky, Tony Award winner Jesse Mueller, Vanessa Severum, Michael Cheyenne, Randy Rainbow,
Love Randy.
Judy Gold.
Jody.
Randy Rainbow was another person that I reached out to.
That's right.
On Twitter, right when he was sitting. Chicago alderperson Lamont Robinson, Michelle Williams of Death Becomes Her, and more. Just go to heartlandsignal.com/out-Chicago or just look for it wherever you get your podcasts.
The magic.
Relive the magic.
There you go. I have a totally off the subject.
Yeah.
Before we get to other subjects, the standing ovation. It occurred to me recently, because we go to a lot of theater, that back in the day, a standing ovation was for something very extraordinary. Earn it, and it's special. Now, every freaking show I go to, whether it's press night or any other night of the run, is a standing ovation. Because if 2 people stand up or 3, there is peer pressure.
Do you ever not?
I like, sometimes I'm a little more hesitant because I'm like, I really didn't love that.
Nope, I will sit down.
I really didn't love that. But, everybody, I'm going to admit it's peer pressure, but people are just standing up for every darn thing. Do you notice it?
Yes.
I mean, it's like a show that we saw that will remain nameless. It was not that good. It was a lot of hype. I see, like, people were like in dribs and drabs on opening night starting to stand up because, we were like very close to the front of the stage. And so we stood up too because you don't want to look. It's like peer pressure. It's like, what happened to really standing up for what do you do now for something that's really extraordinary?
Well, then I stand up, but I do not. If other people are giving a stand, I'm like, oh, no. I will clap. I will be polite. You did your job. You worked up there, but I will not stand up if I don't think they need to be stand up.
How about the Pledge of Allegiance? I was at a neighborhood meeting the other day. It was a South Lakeview neighbors meeting, and we had Sarah Feinholtz, who's a state senator, and we had Bridget Denigan, who is a county commissioner, and they do the Pledge of Allegiance in the beginning of the meeting. How do you feel about that?
That I don't. For your neighborhood association?
You heard me. Yeah, they do this. They have a flag up. Whether it's usually in a church basement,
right?
But they did it at a new, really cool book. It's called Book Club. It's the old Elbow Room on Lincoln Avenue.
Oh yeah.
And they brought the American flag and hung it up. And because right now my allegiance is not so great. But I stood up.
I'll stand. Again, I won't say.
I didn't say, and I did not put my hand on my heart. That's
right.
me. I'm admitting what I did.
Well, there you go.
Oh, wow,
That's
the phone
fine.
lines are lighting up.
Are
we hitting a nerve here?
That is your silent protest.
I just, I don't want to turn into, I'm not going to do things that don't feel right. Although the standing ovation I've done that didn't feel right.
Standing ovation, you caved like that.
I've caved on those.
Well,
a little bit. But it doesn't.
That just seems weird to begin. Like, the only time I remember ever reciting the Pledge of Allegiance was in elementary school.
Me too.
And that's it.
That's
it stopped.
That's it. I agree. But go to a neighborhood meeting and they put a flag up and want you to put your hand on your heart. Anyway, do we have listeners that are...
We do, but Helen wants to talk about standing ovations.
All right.
Helen, welcome. You're on Out Chicago.
Come on down.
Yeah. My daughter and I go to a lot of shows, and we started when people would start coming out, the surrounding cast, not the stars of the show, started coming out. Nobody stands for them. So my daughter and I thought, they do as much work as the principal actors in the show.
Yes. Absolutely.
So we started standing up when the first people first come out, and we clapped and through the whole thing because everybody deserves it because everybody does all the work.
Yes.
It
takes a village.
Agreed, Helen. Here's the thing. And thank you for acknowledging
the other
people,
cast, the smaller role people.
Yeah, because without them, the show would not be what it is. So, and they are working their butts off up there. No problem. But my whole thing is just jumping to your feet just because we need to jump to our feet. Like that drives me kooky pants. What drives me even kooky pants even more is people who leave during the curtain call and just walk out like 'cause they got to try to beat the traffic to get to their car or whatever it is. I'm like, no, they worked.
We race out, but we give them their due, and we don't leave until that curtain closes.
There you go.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you so much for calling and thanks for listening. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's madness, I say.
Just an observation I've had lately, just in the last few years. I don't know if it's since COVID and people were just thrilled to be at the theater again, and I think it just continued.
It's funny because it's kind of been going. I noticed it when I moved to Memphis from Chicago, and I was going to see theater, and they would just jump up. I'm like, really? Stop. And I just don't.
It doesn't make it special.
Give me all the looks.
Doesn't make it special.
We've kind of been going through our little Rolodex of things lately, and we talked briefly about it. But we stumbled across. I don't know how Jerry found this, but he found you could start streaming old episodes of the Joan Rivers talk show, the daytime talk show.
Love Joan.
That Poppy was on.
Poppy was on it.
One we talked about it last. Poppy Champlin. We
Yes.
talked about last week actually about she was the funniest
Funniest
real
woman in America. She won that title on the daytime Joan Rivers show.
Yeah, and we came across the episode that featured the filmmaker and part of, I guess they call him a cast, but I don't want to call it a cast because it's a documentary of Paris is Burning. And that came out in the mid to late 90s. It is about ballroom culture and voguing culture in New York. And it really was like, if you have not seen this documentary, go check it out. It's called Paris is Burning. It follows a group of queer folks who are big into the ballroom culture. By ballroom, we mean like voguing, the underground sort of community.
The gay ballroom.
That created this phenomenon that we have now.
Yes.
That's going on. And I remember, and we were watching it, and it was the full hour of Joan Rivers.
Good for her.
With two queens. There was a unmasked queen who he was in, like the masculine forward, and the director. And she had, some of the questions were a little clumsy, but I think that's just because of the time.
Yeah.
The time period. But watching her navigate this subject on a nationally syndicated daytime show, talking about the art and the passion and the community that is formed with these queens and how truly magical.
It's like their family.
Yeah, but it was like, and they kind of break down like the houses and all that sort of stuff. But it's one of those, it was really great to kind of see this and just kind of be like, holy smokes.
Snapshot in time.
Well, but also it was just like, that was groundbreaking
Yeah,
in terms of like
for her
talking about
to
it.
give him that much time on a
on a daytime show. It was really big.
That's why the gays love Joan.
And people, and she gave me a plant.
Did she?
She did. We saw her in Tunica, Mississippi, and at the end, she gave me one of the palms that were like on stage. She's like, I'm not going to use this
She's
here.
a good person.
She was a great person. And that comes to the end of our show. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It already happened.
What happened?
I want to thank our guests, Rabbi David Chapman and Claire Kennedy McLaughlin. Don't forget to Miss Titanic. There we are. Devin, you are an incredible sneezy person right now. There we are. And Paul, thanks for doing whatever it is you do back in that.
Wait, that's not Paul.
Who is it?
Dylan.
It's Dylan.
Oh my gosh, it's Dylan.
I've been looking at Dylan
Thank
the whole
you.
show.
Thank you, my law school buddy. Congratulations.
Thank you. Oh, thanks.
There we are. Alan Miller, you're fabulous
You
and
are
amazing.
too.
And
Feel
I'm
better.
a fabulous uncle.
Yes, you
I'm gonna
are.
be
You're
a
gonna be
fabulous
an
uncle.
uncle again.
Congratulations, Jared and Katie. Oh my gosh.
Great news.
And I'm Scott Duff. And until next week,
Stay proud.